she burned for her career. I just let the fire out.
The champagne flute felt heavier than it should have as I watched Elena work the room like the predator she'd always been. Her promotion party was in full swing, our house packed with her marketing firm colleagues, all of them treating my custom-built hardwood floors like a subway platform. "Lucas!" Elena's voice cut through the chatter like a blade. "Come meet the team properly!" I approached the circle of suits, already knowing this wouldn't end well. Elena had that particular gleam in her eye, the one that meant someone was about to get filleted for the entertainment of others. "This is my husband Lucas," she announced, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "No degree, no real career ambitions, he just builds things with his hands." The way she said it made honest work sound like a communicable disease. Monica, Elena's best friend and the firm's HR chief, tittered. "How rustic." Miles Remington, Elena's boss and the evening's guest of honor, looked me up and down like I was something stuck to his Italian leather shoe. "Elena's told us so much about you. The stay-at-home husband who freeloads off her success." The circle erupted in polite laughter. I stood there, letting it wash over me, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. "Well," I said, raising my glass with a smile that didn't reach my eyes, "here's to new beginnings. Cheers! This is the last time any of you will see me." I drained the champagne and walked toward the door, their laughter following me like smoke. But I paused at the threshold, pretending to check my phone, while Monica's whisper carried across the room. "He'll be out of your hair soon, Elena. Miles is ready to make his move." Elena's response was barely audible. "The divorce papers are already drafted. He'll never see it coming." Funny, I thought, stepping into the cool night air. I thought I was the one about to disappear. Turns out I'm just getting started. The workshop in our basement had always been my sanctuary. Elena never came down here, said it smelled like sawdust and failure. Tonight, surrounded by my tools and half-finished projects, I finally understood what she meant about the smell. It wasn't failure at all. It was possibility. I'd been suspicious for weeks. Elena's late nights, her sudden interest in expensive lingerie, the way she'd started pronouncing certain words differently, like she was auditioning for a role in someone else's life. But suspicion and proof were different animals entirely. The proof was hiding in her gym bag, tucked behind her protein powder. A burner phone, because nothing says innocent wife like secret communication devices. The messages painted a picture uglier than anything I could have imagined. Miles. "The cabin this weekend. Tell Lucas you're at the spa." Elena. "He's so pathetic, he'll believe anything. Can't wait to be done with this charade." Miles. "Soon, baby. The promotion's just the beginning." But it was the older messages that really twisted the knife. Elena. "Pregnant, we need to talk." Miles. "Handle it. I can't have complications right now." Elena. "It's handled. God, I feel empty." Miles. "Get over it. We have plans." I set the phone down carefully, my hands surprisingly steady. Elena had been pregnant with his child, and they'd handled it. The workshop suddenly felt too small, the air too thin. I walked upstairs, moving through our house, my house built with these worthless hands, seeing it with new eyes. Every custom cabinet I'd installed, every room I'd renovated, every detail I'd crafted with love for a woman who saw me as an obstacle to overcome. Elena was in the kitchen, still in her party dress, loading the dishwasher with the efficiency of someone eager to erase evidence. "Good party," I said. She didn't look up. "You embarrassed me tonight. That dramatic exit was completely unnecessary." "Was it?" Something in my tone made her pause. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just thinking about new beginnings." She finally met my eyes, and for a moment I saw a flicker of uncertainty. But Elena had always been good at reading rooms, not people. "Lucas, I know tonight was difficult, but save it." I held up the burner phone. "We need to talk." The color drained from her face so quickly I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "That's not... You can't just go through my things." "Apparently I can. Interesting reading, especially the part about handling complications." She sank into one of the kitchen chairs I'd built from reclaimed barnwood. "Lucas, please, let me explain." "Explain what? The affair? The pregnancy? The divorce papers Monica mentioned? Or maybe you'd like to explain how you handled our child?" The words hung between us like a blade. Elena's composure finally cracked. We weren't ready. Miles has a reputation to protect, and I couldn't..." "You couldn't what?" Ruin your precious career trajectory. Tears started flowing, but they felt calculated. Elena had always been able to cry on command. I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but we can work through this. I love you, Lucas. I've always loved you. I laughed, surprising us both. Love? Elena, you just spent the evening introducing me as your pet failure. You've been planning to divorce me while screwing your boss and terminating pregnancies like their marketing campaigns. That's not love. That's not even human. Please, she whispered, reaching for my hand. Don't do this. We can start over. I'll end things with Miles. We can try again. I pulled my hand away. Not even if you were the last woman in Ashwood. Elena's home office had always been her temple. Awards lining the walls, expensive art, a desk that cost more than most people's cars. She'd forbidden me from even cleaning in there, claiming I might disturb her energy flow. Tonight, I was definitely disturbing something. The match felt warm between my fingers as I surveyed her sanctuary one last time. All those awards, those irreplaceable keepsakes from her climb up the corporate ladder. Years of careful image cultivation, all so flammable. Time to clean house, I murmured, and dropped the match onto the pile of papers I'd soaked with the expensive bourbon she kept for impressing clients. The flames caught beautifully, dancing across her achievements with an almost artistic grace. I watched for a moment, then headed upstairs as the smoke detector began its frantic song. Elena came running from the bedroom, Miles close behind her. Apparently, he'd decided to console her personally tonight. How thoughtful. Oh my God, Lucas! What did you do? Elena screamed, staring at the smoke pouring from her office. Looks like an electrical fire, I said calmly, already dialing emergency. Probably that expensive lamp you insisted on. I always said the wiring in that outlet was questionable. Miles stepped forward, his face flushed with anger and something else. Fear, maybe. You son of a witch. Careful, Miles. That's my house you're standing in. Elena might have forgotten to mention that little detail during your pillow talk. The fire department arrived with impressive efficiency, but Elena's office was a total loss. As the fire chief explained about electrical hazards and insurance claims, I caught Miles whispering urgently to Elena about damage control and appearances. Poor Miles. He had no idea the real damage was just beginning. The Rusty Buckle wasn't the kind of place Elena's crowd would be caught dead in, which made it perfect for my purposes. Grace, the bartender, had been pouring drinks and collecting secrets for 20 years. She knew where all the bodies were buried in Ashwood. Heard about the fire, she said, sliding a beer across the scarred wooden bar. Shame about Elena's office. Electrical problems. You know how old houses can be. Grace's smile was sharp as broken glass. Sure, electrical problems. Speaking of problems, your wife's been making quite the impression at the country club lately. Oh. Word is she and Miles Remington have been very close. Monica's been running interference, but people talk. I sipped my beer thoughtfully. People do love their gossip. They do indeed. In fact, Miles is throwing a little celebration tonight. Private party at the club. Elena's the guest of honor, apparently. How nice for them. Grace leaned closer. You know, Lucas, I've always liked you. You're real, unlike most of the plastic people in this town. If you ever need anything, information, alibis, whatever, you just ask. I'll keep that in mind. An hour later, I was walking through the country club's main dining room like I owned the place. The private party was in the Oak Room, and security was laughably light. Apparently, Miles was more concerned with impressing Elena than protecting his reputation. I slipped in through the service entrance just as Miles was raising a toast. To Elena, he was saying, his arm around her waist. The most brilliant woman I've ever had the pleasure of working with. The small crowd of executives and their spouses raised their glasses. I recognized most of them. Ashwood's elite, the people who decided what was acceptable and what wasn't. And to new beginnings, Elena added, her voice carrying clearly across the room. That was my cue. New beginnings, I agreed loudly, stepping into the light. What a wonderful sentiment. The room went silent. Elena's face cycled through several expressions before settling on forced brightness. Lucas, what a surprise. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. Hope you don't mind me crashing your little celebration. Miles stepped forward, trying to assert control. This is a private function. Of course it is. Very private. Very intimate. I looked around the room, meeting eyes, planting seeds. Elena always did prefer intimate gatherings. Monica appeared at Elena's side like a guard dog. "Lucas, perhaps you should..." "Should what? Leave my wife to celebrate alone? What kind of husband would that make me?" The word husband hit the room like a physical blow. Suddenly, everyone was very interested in their drinks. "Actually," I continued conversationally, "Elena and I were just discussing new beginnings ourselves. Amazing how life can change so quickly, isn't it? One day you think you know someone, and the next..." I shrugged eloquently. Elena's smile was becoming strained. "Lucas, why don't we talk outside?" "Oh, but I'm enjoying the party. Besides, I have some wonderful news to share with your friends." I paused dramatically. "Elena's pregnant!" The lie hit its target perfectly. Elena went white. Miles choked on his drink, and the room buzzed with sudden interest. Of course, Elena would have to deny it, but the seed was planted. People would watch, wonder, whisper. "I'm not..." Elena started. "Not telling people yet," I finished smoothly. "She's very private about personal matters." "Aren't you, darling?" The damage was done. I could see it in their faces. The speculation, the sideways glances, the mental calculations. Elena's carefully constructed image was developing cracks. "Well," I said brightly, "I should let you get back to your celebration. Enjoy your new beginnings." I left them in chaos, Elena's voice rising in desperate explanations behind me. By tomorrow, the story would be all over Ashwood, twisted and embellished with each telling. She screamed at the ashes, I thought, walking into the cool night air. I just handed her a broom. Owen had been my best friend since high school, back when we both thought we'd conquer the world. He'd become a cop, then a private investigator when the politics got too thick. He specialized in what he called gray area work, the kind of investigations that required creativity and flexible ethics. "You look like heck," he said when I showed up at his office the next morning. "Feel worse. I need a favor, Owen, a big one." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "This about Elena?" "Among other things. I need information on Miles Remington. Financial records, personal habits, anything that might be... interesting." "Interesting how?" "The kind of interesting that ruins careers and destroys reputations." Owen whistled low. "That kind of interesting costs extra. Money's not an object." "It never is when someone's heart gets ripped out." He pulled out a legal pad. "What do you know already?" I told him everything. The affair, the pregnancy, the divorce plans, the country club incident. Owen took notes without judgment, asking occasional questions for clarification. "Miles Remington," he mused when I finished. "I've heard whispers. Nothing concrete, but whispers. Give me a week." "I might not have a week." "Then give me 3 days and double the fee." That afternoon, I had an unexpected visitor. Miss Crandall from next door rarely left her house, but she had an uncanny ability to know everything that happened in the neighborhood. "Terrible thing about the fire," she said, standing on my front porch with a casserole dish. "These things happen." "Oh, they certainly do, especially when people get careless." Her eyes were sharp behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I've been watching the neighborhood for 40 years, Lucas. Amazing what you see from the right window." "I'm sure." "For instance, I saw Elena sneaking out last Tuesday night, and Wednesday and Friday. Always around 11, always in that little red car of hers, never came back until morning." I accepted the casserole. "Thank you for the food, Miss Crandall." "And I saw Miles Remington's car parked behind the grocery store last week. Funny place for a man like that to be shopping, don't you think? Especially since he wasn't shopping at all. Just sitting there, waiting. The old woman's intelligence network was better than the CIA's. If you ever need anything," she continued, "anything at all, you just knock on my door, day or night." After she left, I found Owen's first report in my email. Miles had gambling debts, serious ones, the kind that required creative financing and flexible morality. More importantly, he'd been skimming from company accounts to cover his losses. I printed everything out and made copies. Then I made a few anonymous phone calls. By evening, the first package had been delivered to Monica's desk at the marketing firm. Photos of Miles and Elena together, financial records showing suspicious transactions, and a note. Thought the HR department should know what kind of leadership they're promoting. You can't outrun karma, I thought, watching Elena's office building from across the street. But you can try on foot. Miles's BMW was a thing of beauty. Sleek, expensive, and absolutely pristine. He parked it in the same spot every morning, right next to the executive entrance of his building. Very predictable, very vulnerable. I'd spent the night in my workshop preparing. Red paint mixed with sawdust created a lovely, sticky compound that adhered beautifully to automotive surfaces. The message, "Home Wrecker," stretched across his windshield in letters 2 feet high. The tires were next, not slashed. That would be vandalism, just carefully deflated and filled with that same sawdust mixture. He'd be able to drive, but not far or fast. I left a note under his windshield wiper. "Looks like your ride's as reliable as your morals. A concerned citizen." The security cameras in the parking garage had mysteriously malfunctioned around 3 a.m., something about a power surge that fried the recording equipment. These old buildings had such unreliable electrical systems. I was having coffee at the diner across the street when Miles discovered my artwork. His rage was visible even from a distance, his gestures wild as he screamed at the parking attendant. The poor kid probably had no idea what Miles was talking about. My phone rang 20 minutes later. "You son of a witch," Miles snarled without preamble. "Miles, how nice to hear from you. How's the car?" "You know perfectly well how the car is. This is harassment." "Is it? I've been home all night. Ask anyone." Miss Crandall would swear I never left the house. She owed me a favor for fixing her fence last spring. "I know it was you." Knowing and proving are different things, Miles. You should understand that, being a businessman and all. Speaking of business, how are those quarterly reports coming along? I hear the board's been asking some interesting questions. The silence stretched long enough that I thought he'd hung up. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "Want? I don't want anything from you, Miles. I already have everything I need. Money? I can pay you to... You can't afford what this is going to cost you." I hung up and ordered another cup of coffee. Through the diner window, I could see Miles still standing next to his ruined car, talking frantically on his phone. Probably calling Elena, probably planning their next move. Let them plan. I was 3 steps ahead and accelerating. That evening, Elena came home looking haggard. The fire had destroyed her office, the rumors from the country club were spreading, and now her lover was under investigation at work. Her perfect life was developing some serious cracks. "We need to talk," she said. "Do we? This has to stop, Lucas. Whatever you think you're accomplishing, I'm not accomplishing anything. I'm just living my life, same as always. Don't play dumb. The fire, the rumors, Miles's car. What about Miles's car?" She studied my face, looking for tells. "Someone vandalized it this morning. Terrible. Crime is really getting out of hand in this neighborhood." "Lucas, please, I know I hurt you, but this isn't the way." "What way?" "I haven't done anything except exist in my own house and occasionally visit public places. If that makes people uncomfortable, maybe they should examine their own consciences." Elena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and paled. "Problem?" I asked. "Monica wants to see me first thing tomorrow. There's been some kind of complaint filed against Miles." "Anonymous tip, probably. People see things, Elena. They talk, especially in a town like this." She stared at me with something approaching respect. "You're not the man I married." "No," I agreed. "I'm not. That man was naive enough to trust you. This man learns from his mistakes." The construction site was perfect for what I had in mind. Isolated, full of heavy equipment, and technically public property. I'd done some work for the contractor last year, so my presence wouldn't raise eyebrows. I called Miles from a burner phone, disguising my voice just enough to create doubt. "Mr. Remington, I have information about your situation. Information you'll want to hear." "Who is this?" "A friend. Meet me at the Riverside construction site tonight, 10 o'clock. Come alone and bring cash." "How much cash?" "50,000 should cover it." 50,000 for what? "For making your problems disappear permanently." Miles arrived right on time, a briefcase in one hand and a flashlight in the other. He looked nervous, constantly glancing over his shoulder. Oh, good. Nervous people made mistakes. I waited until he was deep in the site, surrounded by earth movers and concrete mixers, before stepping out of the shadows. "Hello, Miles." He spun around, the flashlight beam catching my face. "You, I should have known." Should have known what? That actions have consequences? That treating people like disposable objects eventually comes back to haunt you? What do you want? "I want you to understand something, Miles. This isn't about money. This isn't about Elena. This is about respect." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Respect? From a nobody carpenter who can't keep his wife happy?" I moved closer, and he backed up until he hit a concrete mixer. See, that's your problem, Miles. You think success means you can treat people however you want. You think your money and your position make you untouchable. I am untouchable. You're nothing. A small-town loser married to a woman way out of his league. Maybe, but here's the thing about being nothing. It means you have nothing to lose. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. A video file, ready to upload. What's that? Insurance. See, I've been documenting everything. Your affair with Elena, your financial irregularities, your gambling debts. Amazing what you can discover when you know where to look. His face went white. You can't prove anything, can I? Owen's very thorough. Bank records, hotel receipts, witness statements. The board of directors is going to find it fascinating reading. Miles lunged at me, trying to grab the phone. I'd expected that. He was bigger than me, but I'd spent years doing physical labor while he'd spent them behind a desk. The fight was brief and decisive. I pinned him against the concrete mixer, his arm twisted behind his back. Here's what's going to happen, Miles. You're going to confess everything. The affair, the financial irregularities, the way you manipulated Elena. You're going to do it publicly, and you're going to take full responsibility. Go to heck. I twisted his arm a little tighter. Or I can release everything I have to the board, the press, and your wife. Your choice. You're bluffing. Am I? Tell me, Miles, what do you think happens to executives who embezzle company funds to pay gambling debts? What happens to their pensions, their severance packages, their reputations? I could feel the fight go out of him. What do you want me to say? The truth. For once in your miserable life, just tell the truth. I released him and stepped back. He rubbed his arm, glaring at me with impotent rage. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. He grabbed his briefcase and stumbled toward his car. I watched him go, knowing he'd spend the rest of the night trying to figure out how to salvage his situation. He'd fail, of course. Some damage couldn't be undone. He begged for mercy, I thought, pocketing my phone. I gave him a microphone. Elena was waiting for me when I got home, sitting in the dark living room like a ghost haunting her own life. Miles told me about tonight, she said without turning on the lights. Did he? What did he tell you? That you're trying to destroy us both. Are you destroyed, Elena? She laughed bitterly. My office is gone. My reputation is in ruins. Monica's treating me like a pariah, and the whole town thinks I'm either pregnant or having an affair. So yes, I'd say I'm pretty well destroyed. I sat down across from her, studying her face in the dim light from the street lamp outside. You did this to yourself, I said quietly. Every choice, every lie, every betrayal. That was all you. I made mistakes. You made choices. There's a difference. She leaned forward, and I could see tears on her cheeks. Real ones this time. I loved you, Lucas. I really did. But love wasn't enough. I wanted more. More what? More everything. More money, more status, more excitement. You were content with this little life, this little house, this little town. I needed more. So you took more from me, from Miles, from anyone who had something you wanted. Yes, the word was barely a whisper. And now I have nothing. Now you have exactly what you deserve. She stood up suddenly, anger flashing in her eyes. What I deserve? I deserve better than this. I deserve better than you. Maybe, but you don't get to decide what you deserve, Elena. The universe does that for you. The universe? You mean you? I mean consequences. I mean karma. I mean the simple fact that actions have results, and you can't charm or manipulate your way out of everything. She moved toward the door, then stopped. This isn't over, Lucas. I won't let you destroy everything I've worked for. You already did that yourself. I just made sure everyone could see it. After she left, I sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about love and betrayal and the price of ambition. Outside, Ashwood slept peacefully, unaware that its most perfect couple was finally showing their true faces. Tomorrow would bring new revelations, new consequences, new reckonings. But tonight, for the first time in months, I felt something approaching peace. The lakeside cabin had been in Elena's family for generations, a rustic retreat where the wealthy came to pretend they appreciated simple pleasures. It was also isolated, private, and the perfect place for a final confrontation. Elena had called that morning, her voice strained and desperate. Meet me at the cabin tonight. Please, Lucas. We need to end this properly. And what? This war between us, this destruction. There has to be a way to salvage something from the wreckage. I'd agreed, knowing it was probably a trap. Elena was cornered now, her career in ruins, her reputation destroyed, her lover under investigation. Cornered animals were dangerous, but they were also predictable. The storm hit just as I arrived, rain lashing the lake into whitecaps and wind howling through the pine trees. Very atmospheric. Elena always did have a flair for drama. Her car was already there, along with two others I recognized, Miles' replacement BMW and Monica's sensible sedan. So much for a private conversation. They were waiting in the main room when I walked in, huddled around the fireplace like conspirators planning a coup, which, I supposed, they were. "Lucas," Elena said, standing as I entered. "Thank you for coming. Wouldn't miss it, though I notice you brought friends." Miles stepped forward, trying to project authority he no longer possessed. "We need to discuss terms." "Terms? For ending this harassment campaign of yours," Monica added. "We're prepared to make you a very generous offer." I looked around the room, at Elena's desperate hope, Miles's false bravado, Monica's calculated coldness. Three people who'd spent their lives manipulating others, now reduced to begging. "Let me guess," I said. "Money. You want to buy me off?" "It's not buying you off," Elena said quickly. "It's compensation. For the house, for the inconvenience, for the betrayal? For the pregnancy you terminated? For the years of marriage you turned into a lie?" The room went silent except for the storm outside. "How much do you think that's worth, Elena? How much is a man's faith worth? His trust? His love?" "Name your price," Miles said through gritted teeth. "I don't want your money, Miles. I want something much more valuable." "What?" "The truth. All of it. On the record." I pulled out my phone and opened the live stream app Grace had helped me set up. The Ashwood Gossip Network had over 3,000 followers, half the town. "What are you doing?" Monica asked. "Giving you what you wanted? A chance to tell your side of the story, to explain yourselves to the people whose opinions matter so much to you." Elena realized what was happening first. "You can't." "I can. I am." I hit the record button. "Good evening, Ashwood. Lucas Moreau here, broadcasting live from the Whitmore family cabin. I'm here with my wife, Elena, her lover, Miles Remington, and their accomplice, Monica Chen. They have something they'd like to share with you." The viewer count was climbing rapidly. Grace was probably spreading the word through her network of bartenders, waitresses, and shop clerks. "Turn that off," Miles demanded. "Or what? You'll call security? We're alone out here, Miles. Just us and the truth." Elena tried a different approach. "Please, Lucas, think about what you're doing. This will hurt everyone." "Everyone's already hurt, Elena. The only question is whether they know why." Monica made a grab for my phone. I'd expected that too. She was fast, but I was faster, and more importantly, I was motivated. The phone stayed in my hands. "Tell them about the affair, Elena. Tell them about the pregnancy. Tell them about the divorce papers you had drawn up while you were still sharing my bed." "I won't." "Then I will." I turned to face the camera. "Ladies and gentlemen, my wife has been having an affair with her boss for over a year. She got pregnant with his child and terminated the pregnancy because it was inconvenient for their careers. She's been planning to divorce me while pretending to be the perfect wife." The viewer count hit 2,000 and kept climbing. Miles finally snapped. "Enough!" He lunged at me, and this time the fight was serious. He was desperate now, with nothing left to lose, and that made him dangerous. We crashed into the coffee table, scattering magazines and ashtrays, but desperation wasn't the same as skill, and I'd been preparing for this moment for weeks. I rolled with his momentum, using his weight against him, and came up with him pinned beneath me. "Tell them," I panted. "Tell them about the embezzlement. Tell them about the gambling debts. Tell them how you manipulated Elena into thinking you loved her when all you wanted was a convenient affair. Go to heck." I looked up at Elena and Monica, who were watching in horror. "He won't confess, but his silence speaks volumes, doesn't it?" Elena was staring at Miles with dawning realization. "The embezzlement? Miles, what is he talking about?" "It's not. I didn't." "You did," I said calmly. "Owen has the bank records. You've been skimming from company accounts for months to cover your gambling losses. Elena was just a convenient distraction, someone to blame when it all came out." I could see the moment Elena understood. The betrayal within the betrayal. The realization that she destroyed her marriage for a man who'd been using her. "You bastard," she whispered, but she was looking at Miles, not me. Monica tried to salvage the situation. "This is all speculation." "Is it?" I pulled out Owen's file and scattered the papers across the floor. Bank statements, hotel receipts, witness statements, photographs. 2 years of evidence. 2 years of lies and manipulation and theft. The live stream was approaching 3,000 viewers. Half of Ashwood was watching their golden couple destroy themselves in real time. Elena stood up suddenly, her face twisted with rage. Not at me, at Miles, at herself, at the situation she'd created. "You used me," she said to Miles. "All of it. The promotion, the affair, the promises. You used me. Elena, please, no." She turned to the camera, her composure finally cracking completely. "You want the truth, Ashwood? Here's the truth. I'm a fool. I threw away the best man I ever knew for a lying, stealing, manipulative coward who never loved me at all. It was too little, too late, but it was something." Miles struggled to his feet, his face flushed with anger and humiliation. "This is insane. You're all insane." He headed for the door, but Elena blocked his path. "Where are you going?" "Away from this madness. Away from all of you. You're not going anywhere until this is finished." That's when Elena made her final, fatal mistake. She grabbed a kerosene lantern from the mantel, a decorative piece that still contained fuel, and hurled it at the wall behind Miles. The glass shattered. Fuel splashed across the wooden walls, and within seconds the cabin was filling with smoke. "Elena, what did you do?" Monica screamed. But Elena was beyond rational thought now. She grabbed another lantern, her eyes wild with desperation and rage. "If I can't have what I want, nobody can!" She tried to light the second lantern, but I was already moving. I tackled her, wrestling the lantern away as the fire spread across the back wall. "Get out!" I shouted to Miles and Monica. "Get out now!" They didn't need to be told twice. They fled through the front door as I dragged Elena toward the exit. She fought me every step of the way, screaming incoherently about justice and fairness, and the unfairness of consequences. We made it outside just as the first sirens became audible over the storm. Miss Crandall had been watching the live stream, of course. She'd called the fire department the moment she saw smoke in the background. Elena collapsed on the muddy ground, sobbing hysterically. Miles and Monica huddled by their cars, looking like refugees from their own ambitions. The cabin burned behind us, taking with it the last remnant of Elena's family legacy. Poetic justice, I thought. She tried to burn down my life and ended up incinerating her own. The fire trucks arrived first, followed by police cars and an ambulance. The volunteer firefighters did their best, but the old wooden structure was beyond saving. By morning, there would be nothing left but ashes and memories. Chief Morrison, who'd known Elena's family for decades, approached us as the paramedics checked everyone for smoke inhalation. "What happened here?" he asked. I looked at Elena, still sobbing in the mud, at Miles, who couldn't meet anyone's eyes, at Monica, who was already calculating damage control strategies. "The truth," I said simply. The truth finally happened. The live stream was still running, the viewer count now over 4,000. The entire town had witnessed Elena's confession, Miles's exposure, and the literal burning of their carefully constructed lies. Elena looked up at me from the ground, her face streaked with tears and soot. "I loved you," she whispered. "Despite everything, I really did love you." I knelt beside her, close enough that only she could hear my response. "You once said I had no future," I said quietly. "Turns out yours just went up in smoke." Then I stood up, pocketed my phone, and walked away from the wreckage of our marriage, leaving Elena to face the consequences of her choices alone. Behind me, the cabin continued to burn, sending sparks into the storm-dark sky like fallen stars seeking redemption. But some things, once burned, could never be restored, and some people, once revealed, could never hide again. The rain continued to fall, washing the smoke from the air, but not the truth from memory. By tomorrow, everyone in Ashwood would know exactly who Elena Moreau really was. And that knowledge would follow her wherever she went, for the rest of her life. Justice, I reflected, walking toward my truck, sometimes wore the face of fire.